came out to check the chickens, and one was in the wrong place, this one. She's one of the pullets. And I thought, well, while I've got her, I'll just go over the best way to hold a chicken. So it's quite important, especially with the females, that you hold them correctly. So when I pick them up, you put your hand between, you sort of basically want to put your hand between their legs like that. So you support them, but you want to keep their wings close to their body as well. So when you pick them up, you tuck them close into their body, close into your body like this, and then support them and hold their wings down with your thumb and press the other wing into your body so that they don't flap around. Because once they start flapping, it's quite difficult to sort of get it back from that. You've also got to be careful when you're holding a hen to not sort of press her back end here, because this one's a pullet and she's not yet started laying. Do you want to start laying soon? Be helpful. Anyway, so you don't want to be sort of pressing around you. I mean, I can feel her abdomen here, but you just got to be quite careful to not press the area, because if she has got an egg, or if she is about to lay, and you were to damage that egg at all, it can cause quite a lot of problems for the hen. So it's a question of just holding them quite tight and quite securely like that. And as you can see, once they're in that position and they're relaxed, you can they're pretty chill and don't mind what you do with them. So you can see she's got absolutely glorious plumage. And when you've got them here, you can give them a little check, little health check. Check their eyes. Their ears are tucked in behind here, and just check they've got nice clean eyes. And the light's gone a bit weird. There we go. So that is how to hold a chicken, and hold them kind of from the front, because like I said, that's you're in less danger then of crushing any eggs that might be inside them. Good girl. I just want to show you this cockerel. He's just a young cockerel. He's one of the chicks, the last batch of chicks that was reared. So he's about 3 months old, I suppose. Yeah, something like that, maybe 4. And it's quite a good idea to get your cockerels when they're young to being used to being handled. Because, I mean, I've never had a problem with a cockerel being sort of vicious or anything, but it is quite a good idea to get them used to being handled. Isn't it? You don't prove very much, do you? But this is one of my crosses. So Ralph is his father, and then one of the Wyandottes, I presume, is his mum. But as with the hen, we don't have to worry quite so much, because obviously he's not going to be laying any eggs. But it's just quite a good idea to get you used to being handled. And same principle of just supporting them underneath and making them feel secure. Keep them close to your body and tuck that wing down, because as soon as they start flapping, like I was saying, they tend to get a bit distressed. But you can see his beautiful yellow legs and his lovely long tail. He's got lots of really lovely colours in him, and in his plumage. So I really love this cross. Obviously it's just a sort of completely random cross, because it's not actually Rhode Red Cross Wyandotte, it's Rhode Red crossed with a cross. So you never know what you're going to get. But this is the 3rd time I've bred this particular batch, and they're really pretty. So I'm hoping, shush, I'm hoping he'll grow up. A couple of his couple of the ones I reared last year, I don't know if they had some sort of genetic condition which was a sort of a fatal gene, but they died kind of just quite randomly. So we'll just have to wait and see how he gets on. But hopefully he'll do all right. He's really thin, actually. I can feel his keel bone under here. So I could try and get some weight on him. But he's a beautiful boy. Come on, you go look at the camera. Good lad, aren't you, hey? I've got a bit of a poorly rooster here. Robert is breathing really heavily and he's spending quite a lot of his time asleep. I don't know if you can see his body kind of going in and out. But I can hear him breathing. There's not a huge amount we can do with chickens really if they get sick. It's a bit different if they kind of break a wing or something like that. But I've kept chickens for a long time and I've spent not an inconsiderable amount of time and effort trying to get them fixed at the vets. But I've kind of come to the conclusion that they're better if you just kind of support them through their illness, and they'll kind of make it or they won't. So Robert's been a bit off for a while. I've noticed he's been sleeping a lot and he's got a bit of blue in the back of his comb on you know, the sort of fleshy bit on the top of his head, which kind of denotes poor circulation, which considering he's also having a bit, he's got quite laboured breathing. I don't know if he's maybe got some sort of lung infection or problem like that. He's, how old is he? 4 maybe? So he's not very old at all. Jason, over the back there, he's about 9. But roosters they don't tend to suffer as many problems as hens, but they can suffer obviously illness just like any other hen. I'm not overly worried that it's something kind of hugely contagious, just because obviously they're all together, so if one had it, they'd all have it. And we have had bird flu reported in the country, although mostly the county next to me, Kent, and up in Cheshire. So I'm not worried that it might be that. I think he's probably just got a bit of a respiratory illness. Chickens are quite prone. They have quite delicate lungs, and they are actually quite prone to sort of colds effectively. So I'm assuming it's just that. The hens all look completely fine, but he has been quiet for a few weeks. It's one of those things, I haven't sort of noticed anything. He has gone downhill a bit in the last few days, but he hasn't been great for a little while. I mean, he spends a lot of time sleeping. It's very difficult with chickens because they're prey animals, so they hide any sort of illness they have very well. But he is looking a bit sorry for himself, so we'll have to wait and see how he gets on. I've put some apple cider vinegar into their water because that's a really good sort of all-round general tonic, and I've removed all the other bits of water from the pen because they do have a nasty habit of shunning the medicated, it's just a apple cider vinegar, but they shun the water they should be drinking and go and drink out of some filthy puddle somewhere that the ducks have been playing around in. So I've done that, and I just keep an eye on him and make sure he's got really lovely clean bedding, so I'll just clean them out more frequently so that there's no danger of them getting any sort of bugs and humidity and nasties in their coop. So that's all I can do, but we'll wait and see how he gets on. But he is looking a bit poorly, so we'll just have to wait and see how he does. You can see he's still breathing quite heavily. It's quite difficult for him to. He's having to kind of really work to get the breath in. But you can't really separate them because they tend to get more stressed about being separated than they do, you know, the benefits of being separated. Don't really confer because they get quite stressed about being away from their nest mates. And like I said, he doesn't seem to be passing on to, you know, all the others seem completely fine. So he has just finished molting, and it does really sort of affect their immune systems going through a molt. But you can just see at the back of his comb there, it's quite blue. So yeah, we'll see how he goes. But he seems okay now. Now he's out and about, you wouldn't know there's anything wrong with him, but his like I said, that's prey animals for you. Still able to wind up Tweedledee. making a kind of dead hedge, I suppose you call it, which is basically where you use kind of prunings and trimmings, and you weave them between uprights in order to make a barrier. But it's not anything terribly sort of Pinterest worthy, but I think we have to be careful of the curse of Pinterest. So I'll show you what I'm doing. At the moment I'm just cutting down this elder here behind me because it's just growing up in the hedge and it shouldn't really be there. So I'm using some prunings, because you can't burn elder because it's bad luck, and even if you're not superstitious, I think need to limit the kind of amount of bad luck we might produce in the world. So but I'm just using some of the prunings. I've also got some other bits and bobs which I'll go and show you. So here we have the structure. So I've just got these uprights here, which are just old, well, kind of beam poles that I had, and I'm just weaving in. As you can see, I've got some raspberry canes, I've got some willow, and I'm just weaving them in to make a kind of barrier, because I want this area to be for kind of vegetables, or maybe a bit more of a compost heap. There's a compost heap there at the moment, but the chickens keep jumping in it. So I'm just going to screen off this area just so I've got a bit more control of what I do in there. And so obviously I'm just doing this side at the moment, and then I'll do along the back and around the side, this shorter side as well. And I can just enclose it a little bit. So it's a bit of an experiment as well to see kind of how well it does. But it's a really good way of getting rid of, if you've got a load of long sort of stemmy prunings. I've got some willow herb in here as well, so anything which has got a bit of structure to its stem you can use in this. And obviously it's really kind of wildlife friendly, and like I said, doesn't look terribly pretty, but then it's functional. So I'm going to just try this, because if this works, I want to do a shorter version, or rather a lower version of it around my borders. But this is what I'm doing. This is my little project for today, this and planting some bulbs. I've been quite busy. I've planted a load of tulip bulbs in here, and they're just sitting by the house. It's going to rain tomorrow, so I haven't bothered watering them. So this is just a mix of peat-free compost and some topsoil, which the moles helpfully got for me. I've got a few bulbs in there as well, the seeds behind them that I sowed last week. There we go. So there's my construction. So I just finished building up this side and do another piece along the back there, and then I think I'll have this as a second compost heap, because I really want to grow some more squashes next year, because they weren't terribly successful this year. So I will be able to fill this up with compost. As you can imagine, I get quite a bit of bedding that needs composting from the chickens as well as the bunnies and guineas, so I think that's what I'll do, and then it can just rot down, and you know, then I can plant stuff in it that needs very rich nutritious conditions to grow in. But it's quite a good idea. I mean, if you've got sort of thorny stuff like roses, that's quite good, or if you know, if like me you don't have a huge provision for composting, and you know, I don't tend to use the green bin from the council, so it's quite a good idea, or quite a good use of kind of long stemmed woody prunings that maybe would take quite a long time to compost down. It's quite a good way of using those to good effect. basically because I haven't got any bread and I fancy a little tea time treat. So I'm just going to make some really simple, like it's a kind of super quick version of cinnamon buns or cinnamon rolls. So I'm just going to make a really basic, just a small amount of bread dough, white bread dough, and then just roll it out once it's proved and spread some cinnamon butter and sugar on there and twist them up and then bake them. So I'm going to just get on and do a really tiny amount of bread dough. So I'm just using regular strong white, organic strong white flour, and I'm going to use 250 grams. So basically it's a half or a quarter recipe compared to what I would normally do. 250 grams. Half a teaspoon of salt. Now I want this to rise quite quickly because I'm hungry, so I'm going to put a little bit extra yeast in, so I'll put a teaspoonful of yeast in. And I'm going to stir that around. No, I'm not going to put it in the mixer. I'm going to add a little bit of kefir to the liquid, just because it'll gives a nice sort of soft texture and helps it rise. Not the prettiest of liquids, kefir, but it's very good for you. And then I'm just going to, oh, that needs to be a bit warmer. So normally for 500 grams of flour, you'd have about 300 ml of water. So I'm just going to sort of halve that down, but you have to be a little bit careful and just go a bit with what the dough's doing. I'll start off with 150 ml of water, well, liquid. That's the dough done, so I'll just leave that to rest for a bit and double in size and put that next door. So on with the filling. I'm not going to bother weighing because it's kind of more of an amount thing and it depends a bit how thin you roll them, but I tend to use kind of about a tablespoon of butter, a couple of tablespoons of sugar and a teaspoonful of cinnamon. So just pop that in there. You could use soft brown sugar if you want to. And some cinnamon. I have this brand called Steenberg's, but I've got quite a few, and I live in fear and dread of one day putting garam masala or something into my cinnamon buns, which should not be a thing. There we go. So the butter's quite firm because the kitchen's cold. So I'm just going to go and put this in the lounge where it's a bit warmer, and then I can mix it together to a paste, and then it'll be ready to go onto the cinnamon twists. concludes the vlog. Hope you enjoyed it. It's getting a bit late now. You can see Ned's decided it's bedtime. He does actually sleep in his crate at night, not on the sofa, even though he pretends not to hear me when I call him to go into his crate. But I hope you enjoyed the vlog, and I look forward to seeing you next time.